All right, well, let's continue with the chapter. Now, here Ivan says that your daughter is an excellent housekeeper, not bad looking, well educated. Now, we all know when we are about to marry someone, we see such kind of qualities. A person who can manage the house well, person who is pleasant and, pleasantable, and of course, educated. Now, Ivan says, what more do I want? She already fulfills all the criteria that I want a girl to get married with, but I'm getting a noise in my ears from excitement, and it's impossible for me not to marry. In the first place, I'm already 35, a critical age. Now, Ivan here says I'm 35, I can't wait for more, and if I keep on looking for better and better qualities, I'm going to waste my time. So, when I have my neighbor's daughter who's already an excellent housekeeper, beautiful looking, and educated, why should not I bring back my proposal, so to speak? In the second place, I ought to lead a quiet and regular life. I suffer from palpitations. So now he is trying to tell his father that there are two things. Number one, he wants to get married because he need to get married. It's a common thing we all do. Second of all, he had a problem of palpitations. Whenever he was really upset, he would feel some kind of vibrations, uneven breathing, and those kind of palpitations he would have all alone in the house. So he wanted someone to take care of it. I am excitable and always getting awfully upset. So it is a problem with him. He can get awfully upset any time of the day. And at this very moment, my lips are trembling and there's a twitch in my right eyebrow. Even now, he says, because he's a little nervous to meet the daughter, Natalia, he says, I can feel some kind of twitch in my eyebrow and some trembling in my lips. But the very worst of all is the way I sleep. I no sooner get into bed and begin to go off when suddenly something in my left side gives a pull and I can feel it in my shoulder and head. I jump up like a lunatic. Now, lunatic simply you can consider as a person who is a little psycho, a maniac. Walk about a bit and lie down again, but as soon as I begin to get off to sleep, there is another pull. And this may happen 20 times. So, this is some kind of a problem he has. He has palpitations, and as a result of those palpitations, he feels some kind of a pull, sometimes on his left side of the body, sometimes on the right side of his body. And it was such that it would not stop for even once. It would happen continuously with him for 20 times. Now, let's consider us that if Ivan had come to us for our daughter. After hearing this, we would like be surprised that it is right to get a daughter married to such a person who has so many medical issues with him. But here, the father, Chubukov, he says nothing. Meanwhile, Natalia enters the room. Now happens what? Well, there, it's you, and Papa said, go, there is a merchant come for his goods. How do you do, Ivan? Now she said, okay, my father was just telling me that some merchant has come. And when I come here, I see that it is none other than our neighbor, Ivan. Lomov says, how do you do? Honored Natalia. Now again, he greets Natalia with this honor that how are you? How do you do? You must excuse my apron and neglect. We are shelling peas for drying. Why haven't you been here for such a long time? Sit down. They seat themselves. Won't you have some lunch? Now, here Natalia is not appropriately dressed. She was trying to take out some peas for drying and she was wearing an apron for it, which wasn't looking very good. So she says, kindly excuse me. Lomo, no thank you. I have some already. Now, Natalia offers lunch to Ivan, and Ivan says, no, I already had some lunch. Natalia then spoke, here are the matches. The weather is splendid now, but yesterday it was so wet that the workmen did not do anything at all. How much hay have you stacked? Just think, I felt greedy and had a whole field cut, and now I am not all pleased about it because I am afraid my hay may rot. I ought to have waited a bit, but what is this? Why you're in evening dress? Well, I never. Are you going to a ball or what? Though I must say you look better. Tell me, why are you got up like that? Now Natalia is telling Ivan that the weather was really good yesterday. The weather was really good now, but yesterday it was so bad. And in that haste, in that worry, that what if rain comes and all the hay will be destroyed or ruined? In that hurry, what she did, she cut off all the hay. But now she is repenting her decision because she feels all this hay is going to be rot. It is going to be useless because she cannot consume all of the hay all at once. So meanwhile, she was telling and discussing this problem, she notices that Ivan is dressed in a very awkward manner. He's wearing an evening dress. So even she puts up a question, are you going to some ball? Are you going to some party? Why you're dressed like that? Lamont says, you see, Honor Natalia, the fact is, I have made up my mind to ask you to hear me out. Now, again, he's not being direct with Natalia. He says, there is something that I want to discuss with you, and I want you to hear me out. Of course, you will be surprised and perhaps even angry. Perhaps here means maybe. Now, Ivan says, after listening to my request, it is a greater chance that you may feel surprised and angry both, but it is awfully cold. And again, he says that I am feeling cold, maybe because he's nervous and he's sensing some palpitations. Natalia says, what's the matter? Lamo, I shall try to be brief. You must know, on Natalia, that I have long, since my childhood, in fact, had the privilege of knowing your family. My late aunt and her husband, from whom, as you know, I inherited my land, always had the greatest respect for your father and your late mother. The Nomovs and Chukobos have always had the most friendly, and I might almost say the most affectionate regard for each other. And as you know, my land is a near neighbor of yours. You will remember that my oxen meadows touch your birch woods. Now, from here, the main chapter starts. What happens is he says that, Natalia, you know, you're not new to me. My aunt and my uncle, they knew your father in a very good way. And from there only, I have inherited my land. And we both have been knowing each other for so long, not only both of us, but the families. And you should also know that these oxen meadows are really close to your birch woods. Now, oxen meadows here are a grassland where animal can normally graze. So there was one oxen meadow. There was a grassland which belonged to Ivan, as per him. Now, who's the real owner? We'll get to know. But as per Ivan, that oxen meadow belonged to him. And it touched the birch wood of Natalia. So, in a way, he's trying to say that the meadow belongs to me and birchland belongs to you. Birchland here is there are long, long trees and a small grass in a small land. Now, when Natalia listens that the meadows belong to Ivan, she says, excuse my interrupting you, excuse me. You say your oxen meadows, but are they really yours? Lomov says, yes, naturally they are. Natalia says, what are you talking about? Oxen meadows are ours. Now, as I told you in the starting of the chapter, that both of them are wise enough, but now they have started fighting for what? They have started fighting for the ownership of oxen meadows. As per Natalia, the meadows belong to her, and as per Ivan, it belonged to him. No, mine, honored Natalia. Well, I never knew that before. How do you make that out? Natalia says, I never knew about this. How did you know that the meadows belong to you? How? I'm speaking of those oxen meadows which are wedged in between your birch woods and the burnt marsh. Now he says, Ivan says, I think, Natalia, you are confused. You're not aware of what we are talking. I am talking about that land which is in between, stuck between your birch woods and the marsh here. So wedged here means stuck in between. Natalia says, yes, yes, I very well know what you're talking about. That land belongs to us. No, you are mistaken, Natalia. Now, Ivan says, Natalia, you are mistaken. Just think, Ivan, how long have they been yours? Now, Natalia says, since when do you call yourself the owner of that land? How long? As long as I can remember. Now, Ivan says, since I have seen those lands, they belong to me, since I have been born. Now, Natalia says, really? You won't get me to believe that. Natalia says, just because you tell me that the land belongs to you, I am not going to believe you. It is not true because I know that land belongs to me and my father. But you can see from the documents, honored Natalia, Oxen Meadows, it's true, were once the subject of dispute, but now everybody knows that they are mine. There is nothing to argue about. You see, my aunt's grandmother gave the free use of these meadows in perpetuity to the peasants of your father's grandfather, in return for which they were to make bricks for her. The peasants belonging to your father's grandfather had the free use of meadows for 40 years and had got into the habit of regarding them as their own when it happened that. Now, what is the reason Ivan gives is Ivan tells Natalia that my grandmother, she owned this land, but she gave a little work, a little usage of that land to your father's grandfather's peasant. Your father's grandfather peasants used to work in the meadows, which were permitted by my grandmother. My grandmother allowed you, my aunt's grandmother allowed your father's grandfather's peasants to work in that land. Now, because they kept working for 40 years, they started imagining as if it is their own land. And not only this, because they were allowed to work, they had to do something in favor. And what was that thing? The peasants had to make bricks for Ivan's aunt's grandmother. So this is the story told by Ivan to Natalia, that the lands were given to you, but not the ownership, just to work in that land. Natalia says, no, it isn't all like that. Both grandfather and great grandfather reckoned. Reckoned here means they had opinion about something. That their land extended to burnt marsh, which means that oxen meadows were ours. Now again she says here first it is birch woods, then meadows, then marsh, burnt marsh. So she says we already had the birch wood, then our land was extended to the burnt marsh. So in between what is the area left? It is naturally meadows. So she said when my grandfather said that the land has extended to the burnt marsh, naturally all the three lands belong to us now. Even the the burnt marsh belongs to us, even the meadows belong to us, and even the birchwood belongs to us, which means that oxen meadows are ours. I don't see what's there to argue about. It's simply silly. Now she says there's nothing to argue. It is really silly of you. Lomov says, okay, wait, if you don't trust me, I'll show you the documents. Natalia says, I can't believe this. You're simply joking or making fun of me. What a surprise. We have had the land for nearly 300 years, and then we are suddenly told that it is not ours. Ivan, I can hardly believe my own ears. These meadows aren't worth much to me. They only come to 5 desiatins. Now, here, desiatins means it's a Russian unit which is equal to 2.5 acres land. Now she says that it's a joke. This land is ours since 300 years and it's like 2.5 acres land and it doesn't matter to me and it would be hardly 300 rubles. Rubles is the currency of Russia. But I can't understand unfairness. She said, even if you take this land, it's okay. But the point is, you are lying. This land doesn't matter to me, but injustice, unfairness is something that really annoys me. Say what you will. I can't stand unfairness. She said, whatever you say, whatever you want to say, you can say, but I will never, ever stand unfairness. Lumov says, hear me out. I implore you. Implore you means I'm telling you something. Listen to my opinion. The patience of your father's grandfather, he again tells the same story as I have already had the honor of explaining to you, used to bake bricks for my aunt's grandmother. Now my aunt's grandmother wishing to make them a pleasant. Natalia says, I can't make head or tail of all this about aunts and grandfathers and grandmothers. The meadows are ours, that's all. Now, again, there is a fight argument between Natalia and Ivan, and both of them are fighting over this issue that this oxen meadow belongs to them. Lomov says, mine. Natalia says, ours. You can go on proving it for 2 days on end. You can go and put on 15 dress jackets, but I tell you, they're ours. She says, even if you wear 15 dresses, even if you go for 2 days and you keep saying that this land belongs to you, even at the end of that day, I will say that the land is ours. And then she repeats this 3 times. She says, they are ours, ours, and ours. I don't want anything of yours, and I don't want to give anything of mine. Natalia says, I do not have any intention of taking or grabbing thing which you have, but at the same time, I will not give anything that I possess. Now Limov says, Natalia, I don't want the meadows, but I am acting on principle. If you like, I'll make you a present. Now Limov says, I am talking about facts. I don't want that land, but when that land belongs to me, it is a principle, it's a true thing, it's a fact. And if you want me to gift it to you, I will gift it to you. But you can't take the ownership of the land. You cannot call that land as of yours. Natalia says, I can make you a present of them myself. She says, what gift are you talking about? I can give it to you myself because they are mine. Your behavior, Ivan. Now Natalia here gets agitated. She gets angry. She says, what is this kind of behavior? This is strange. Up to this, we have always thought of you as a good neighbor, a friend. Last year, we lent you our threshing machine. Although on that account, we had to put off our own threshing till November. But you behaved to us as if we were gypsies. Now, gypsies are people who actually grab lands, who are like, who literally steal something. Giving me my own land? Indeed, no, really. That's not at all neighborly. In my opinion, it's even impudent. If you want to know, impudent means brave in a bad way. Now, Natalia says, what is this kind of behavior, Ivan? We thought you as a good neighbor, a friend, but now you are actually gifting us something which belongs to us. And more than gifting, you are arguing. You are not ready to accept whatever has happened. And you believe as if we are gypsies. We have taken your land and ran away somewhere. It is not something good, but it is really brave of you to call me like this. Lumov says, then you make out that I am a land grabber. So he says, if you think I'm calling you a gypsy, then by that way, you are also calling me a land grabber. That means I've grabbed your land. Madam, never in my life have I grabbed anybody's else land, and I shan't. Shan't here was shall not allow anybody to accuse me of having done so. Now again, it's a normal fight. They say that Ivan also says that you can't blame me that I'm a land grabber. You can't tell me what I have to do. So both of them, if you see, they are fighting in this statement. Natalia says it is not true, they're ours. Ivan says it's mine, and so on. You can even see the expressions here. Both of them, initially, they were about to have a good time together, and even Ivan had come to give a proposal, but here the proposal is missing, and they're just arguing over a piece of land, which is a grassland. Natalia says it's not true. I will prove it. I will send my movers out to the meadows. Now, movers here are people who will cut the grasses. Now, just to show her authority, she says, I'm going to prove this to you. I'm going to call my movers and they're going to cut the grass. Lomo says, what? Natalia says, my movers will be there this very day. She says, I'm going to send this right now. Lomo says, I will give it to them in the neck. That means I'm going to stop them. I'm not going to let them do anything. I'm going to compete with them. Natalia says, don't you dare do this. Lomo clutches at his heart. Oxen meadows are mine. You understand? Mine. Now here Ivan gets angry. He says, will you understand that these meadows are mine and they only belong to me? Natalia says, please don't shout. You can shout yourself hoarse. Hoarse here means in a rough tone, in your own house. But here I must ask you to restrain yourself. If it wasn't, madam, for this awful, excruciating palpitation, if my whole inside wasn't upset, I would talk to you in a different way. Now, after this argument, when I told you that Ivan had a problem of feeling awfully upset, he's already upset with this. He had started having palpitations, and as a result of those palpitations, he has started behaving very badly to Natalia. And how is he behaving? He's shouting on her. So Natalia objects. Natalia says that if it was your house, you could have done this. And even if you have to shout in a rough tone, do this in your house, but not here. Here you have to restrain. Restrain means you have to stop yourself. Now, if you see in the last line, they're saying ours, mine, ours, mine. In this conversation, in this argument, now here it's the father that enters and says, what's the matter? What are you shouting for? Now he puts up a question to both of them because he's surprised. Ivan told him that he had come to give a proposal, but now here he's shouting. So father naturally asks, like, what is the matter? Why are you shouting? Natalia says, Papa, please tell this gentleman who owns Oxen Meadows, we or he. Now father says, darling, the meadows are ours. Now Natalia says that dad, we are fighting over this Oxen Meadows. Please tell him, tell this gentleman, this land belongs to whom? So Chibukov says, naturally it belongs to us. So basically, now there are two sides. On one side is Ivan, and on the other side is Chibukov and his daughter Natalia, and three of them now will start fighting over the same discussion. I will end the second part here, and for the third part, I'm going to share another video. Till then, take care, and please do like and subscribe the channel.